The day I buried my husband, Ethan Carter, I believed I'd already survived the worst day of my life. I was wrong. 3 weeks later, I walked into a crowded courthouse in Chicago wearing the same black blazer I'd worn to his funeral. Across the courtroom sat my mother-in-law, Margaret Carter. Perfect hair, designer suit, diamond earrings. She wasn't crying. She wasn't grieving. She was smiling. The moment the hearing began, she stood confidently and announced loud enough for everyone to hear. "Everything Ethan owned belongs to me. His wife gets nothing." The courtroom fell silent. Even my lawyer looked stunned. Margaret continued, "That house, mine. The family business, mine. The investment accounts, mine. And the life insurance, also mine." She even looked directly at me and whispered, "You were only temporary." I could barely breathe. For 12 years, I had stood beside Ethan through every late-night business meeting, every hospital visit, every financial struggle. When his father abandoned the company, I worked unpaid for almost 2 years to keep it alive. But now, his own mother wanted to erase me completely. She claimed Ethan had promised everything to her years ago. She even presented what looked like legal paperwork. Several people in the courtroom began nodding. For a terrifying moment, I thought she might actually win. Then my attorney quietly leaned toward me. "Don't react," he whispered. "They're hiding something." Before I could ask what he meant, the judge adjusted his glasses, studied Margaret's documents for a long moment, then looked directly at her. His expression suddenly changed. He leaned forward and asked one simple question that made Margaret's confident smile disappear instantly. "Mrs. Carter, if this document is genuine, why was it signed 2 days after your son had already died?" The entire courtroom gasped. The courtroom froze. Margaret's face turned pale. For the first time that morning, she looked nervous. My attorney prepared those papers earlier," she stammered. The judge didn't respond immediately. Instead, he handed the document to the court's forensic examiner. After a few tense minutes, the expert looked up. "Your Honor, the signature appears to have been digitally copied from an older document." A loud murmur spread across the courtroom. Margaret's lawyer shot to his feet. There must be some mistake. But the examiner continued. The paper itself was printed 9 days after Mr. Ethan Carter passed away. It could not have been signed by him. Margaret gripped the edge of the table so tightly her knuckles turned white. She glanced toward her attorney, silently begging for help. Then, the judge turned to me. "Mrs. Carter," he said gently, "did your husband ever mention another will?" I swallowed hard. "I don't know, Your Honor. Ethan always handled our legal paperwork himself. He only told me that if anything ever happened to him, I would be taken care of." Before anyone could speak again, the courtroom doors opened. A gray-haired man in an expensive navy suit walked inside carrying a locked leather briefcase. Every head turned. Even the judge recognized him. "Mr. Harrison." The man nodded. "I'm Ethan Carter's corporate attorney." Margaret's eyes widened in panic. "No," she whispered. Mr. Harrison calmly placed the briefcase on the evidence table. "I was instructed to appear only if anyone challenged Ethan's estate or attempted to submit fraudulent documents." He unlocked the briefcase. Inside was a sealed envelope marked in Ethan's handwriting. "To be opened only by the court if my wife, Olivia Carter, is ever denied her rightful inheritance." The room became so quiet that you could hear people breathing. Margaret slowly sank back into her chair. For the first time, she realized Ethan had planned for this possibility long before his death. The judge carefully picked up the sealed envelope. He looked around the courtroom. Then said, "Since this document appears properly witnessed and notarized, we will read it into the official court record." Margaret closed her eyes. She knew that whatever was inside that envelope could destroy everything she had spent weeks trying to steal. The courtroom held its breath as the judge carefully broke the seal. Inside were 3 documents: a handwritten letter, a notarized last will and testament, and a small USB drive labeled in Ethan's handwriting. "If my mother contests my will, play this recording." Margaret's face drained of color. "No," she whispered. "He wouldn't." The judge nodded to the court clerk. Moments later, Ethan's voice filled the silent courtroom. "If you're hearing this, it means I'm gone, and someone is trying to ignore my final wishes." I felt tears fill my eyes. It was the first time I'd heard my husband's voice since he passed away. The entire courtroom listened in silence. Olivia stood beside me through every failure, every success, and every impossible day. "Everything I built, we built together." He paused. Then his tone became serious. "I love my mother, but over the years she repeatedly tried to control my life and my marriage. If she's challenging this will, then she's proving exactly why I prepared this recording." Margaret buried her face in her hands. The courtroom was completely silent. The judge then unfolded Ethan's official will. It clearly stated, Olivia would inherit the family home. She would receive Ethan's shares in the company. His savings, investments, and personal belongings would all pass to her. Margaret would receive a fixed trust payment each month, but she would have no authority over the estate. Then came one final clause. If anyone knowingly submits forged documents to challenge this will, I request the court investigate the fraud to the fullest extent allowed by law. The judge slowly removed his glasses. He looked directly at Margaret. "Mrs. Carter, this court has serious concerns regarding the documents you submitted." Her attorney quietly stood. "Your Honor, my client wishes to withdraw her claim." The judge shook his head. "I'm afraid it's too late for that." Court security stepped forward as the clerk collected the forged papers for investigation. Margaret looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I only wanted what belonged to my family." I met her gaze calmly. "It was your family, Margaret. You chose greed over love." A few weeks later, the court officially closed the estate. I didn't celebrate winning the case. I celebrated honoring Ethan's final wishes. With part of the inheritance, I created a scholarship in Ethan's name for students who dreamed of becoming entrepreneurs. Every year, I watch another young person get the opportunity he always believed everyone deserved. And every time I hear someone say, "Justice always finds its way," I remember the moment the judge asked one simple question that changed everything. 1 year later, I was standing outside the newly opened Ethan Carter Business Scholarship Center. A bronze plaque at the entrance read, "Built in honor of Ethan Carter, a man who believed integrity is the greatest inheritance." Dozens of students filled the auditorium. Many came from families who could never have afforded college. Watching them smile made me realize Ethan's legacy had become far greater than money. After the ceremony, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. When I answered, A quiet voice said. Olivia, it's Margaret. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, I've lost everything. After the court's investigation, the forged documents had led to criminal charges against the consultant who created them. Margaret avoided prison because of her age and cooperation, but she paid heavy financial penalties and lost the trust of nearly everyone around her. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. I only wanted to tell you. Ethan would be proud of what you've done. I looked toward the scholarship building bearing Ethan's name. He always wanted this, I replied softly. I know, she answered through tears. I'm sorry I couldn't see that until it was too late. Months later, I received a small package in the mail. Inside was Ethan's old wristwatch, the one Margaret had kept after the funeral. There was also a handwritten note. This belongs with the person Ethan trusted most. Please take care of it, and thank you for protecting his legacy. I held the watch tightly and smiled through my tears. For the first time since Ethan's passing, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Peace. Sometimes, the greatest victory isn't winning in court. It's honoring the person you loved by choosing compassion over revenge, and making sure their legacy lives on for generations.